The strongest winds and Zeta are moving out, but a separate system is moving in, and this system brings the threat for severe weather tonight. I'll walk you through the timeline hour by hour coming up.
And North Carolina hits another all-time record for the number of cases reported in one day and the average number we're seeing on a daily basis. That's coming up at 4.
The Triangle's #1 source for news. This is WRAL, coverage you can count on.
Right now at 4 o'clock, we have several developing stories we're following this afternoon. New COVID-19 cases are linked to a campaign rally in our state, and the president has delayed his visit to Fayetteville today. We'll have the latest on those two stories in just a few minutes, but first, we are seeing the effects from Tropical Storm Zeta in North Carolina. Let's take a look at some video out of Durham. You can see those massive trees there swaying in the wind. Winds have been whipping like this all across North Carolina today as Tropical Storm Zeta makes its mark.
And the clouds look a little gloomy today and very heavy. This is a time lapse over Dorothea Dix Park. The wind caused some issues across our state today, including power outages and trees down. Meteorologist Kat Campbell is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Kat, the winds were very strong today.
Yes, they were. As forecast, our maximum wind gusts were up to 52 miles per hour at RDU Airport and in Fayetteville, as well as Rocky Mount. We had a stronger gust from the storm tracker and Goldsboro, gusts near 50 miles per hour. But the worst of the wind is over. Zeta is moving away. It is still windy outside, though. We have gusts up to around 30 miles per hour around the Triangle, as well as Fayetteville, 31 miles per hour closer to Rocky Mount. It'll stay breezy this evening, but Zeta is moving out. It's moving very quickly to the east-northeast at over 50 miles per hour. But now our attention shifts to our next system. This is a separate system that will bring a different type of weather tonight. This upper-level low will bring a cold front through the area, and that'll bring a line of storms through the area. So the entire viewing area is under a level 1 risk for severe storms tonight from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Damaging wind gusts will be the key concern, but we can't rule out an isolated tornado. So here is a look at Futurecast. 5 o'clock through about 8 o'clock tonight, there's really nothing to worry about. The line of storms is not likely to get here until after 9 o'clock. You can see a few storms starting to approach the Sandhills at that point, moving closer to the Triangle after 10 p.m. tonight. 11 o'clock through about 1 a.m. we have that threat. And then the eastern part of the viewing area could see the strong storms moving through between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. So a lot to watch today with two separate strong storm systems moving in. Meteorologist Amy Wilmoth has been out in the storm tracker today. Amy is in Dix Park talking about what she's seen. Amy?
You guys were spot on with the forecast, Kat. It was windy for a brief point in time, a couple of hours this afternoon, but Zeta moved through quickly. It's still a little bit breezy here. I want to do a little show and tell here. We're with the storm tracker right now. We have a nice tool here. It's a weather station that gives us the current winds, and right now those winds are 1 to 5 miles per hour. It is not that windy, but earlier today, this caught a wind gust of 58 miles per hour while we were driving around in Durham. So some really strong wind gusts as Zeta, the core of Zeta, moved through our northwestern counties. Now, we have some video that we want to show you from Durham. This sent in from a viewer. The trees were swaying in Durham. We saw trash cans down. There were some trees down on power lines, but definitely windy in Durham. I would say the timeline of the strongest winds in Durham around 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Really strong winds as this storm moved through. But now it is much quieter here, and now we're waiting for the cold front that could bring a line of severe storms later on this evening. Kat and Mike will have more on that coming up in just a little bit. Catherine?
I can feel the winds pushing my car around 1 o'clock today on the way to work. Stay safe out there. Amy, thank you.
Yep.
Bring on that cooler weather. I love it. I'm Mark Boyle in the Live Center. I want to show you some of the videos we've been seeing from North Carolina down to South Carolina. It has been a day of a big mess in terms of the weather-related storms. Take a look at this tree right here. You oftentimes don't see this, where you actually see the tree being uprooted and falling and crashing onto a home. This is north of Charleston. Just an incredible force of nature to see that happening and playing out there on video. No one was hurt in that case, so some good news there. In Lenoir to the Charlotte area off to our west, West. A lot of flooding and a lot of rain came down so quickly this morning. That's what caused a lot of these issues. This was the start of a water rescue that happened out in that area. Again, that is in Lenoir. Back closer to home, this is off near Western Boulevard to our west near Carolina Avenue. You see this this line right here. It snapped, and at one point it was over the road. Police actually blocked that road to move the cable off to the side. That's one of the concerns you're going to be up against this afternoon when you're driving around. Just keep an eye out because there are some dangerous lines and cables that have fallen onto the roads. Back to you.
And speaking about those power lines, around noon today, more than 60,000 Duke Energy customers were without power in central North Carolina, 12,000 of which were concentrated in Wake County. But crews have been hard at work making repairs. And at the moment, about 2,200 customers are without power in Wake County. That's where we find WRAL's Adam Owens in Raleigh after he visited some of those trouble spots. Adam?
Yeah, Lena, we just saw one of those bigger wind gusts in the treetops where we're at right now. We're in a neighborhood off of Lynn Road in Raleigh, one of the unfortunate spots that did lose their power in some of the heavier wind we saw a little earlier in the day. People decided to get out of the house instead of sitting inside in the dark. And in one of the front yards, we found the Pridgetons.
It was very windy.
Around lunchtime, the lights went out at homes along Lynn Road in Raleigh. Just before they went dark, 3 large bangs.
I was in the front living room and I heard a noise, a big bang, and I saw a flash of light. And after talking to the neighbor over there, he said the transformer behind him went out.
There were outages in pockets all around Wake County. Over in Cary, a traffic light was out on Green Level Road. At a shopping center nearby, businesses temporarily closed when the power went out. And there's some good news for folks in this area. About an hour ago, they did get their power back. What we've been finding around the area as we've moved around Wake County is that as soon as we get to an area that does have power out, it's not too terribly long after that they get it back. Really speaks a lot to all the work that the power crews are doing out there to make repairs as soon as they pop up. Back to you.
We appreciate all they do. Adam Owens, live in Raleigh. Thanks, Adam.
Well, a mail carrier is okay after a tree fell on his truck as he was making deliveries this morning. Take a look at this. These pictures out of Statesville, just outside Charlotte. Neighbors say he was leaning out of his truck when the winds actually blew the truck over. Fortunately, he is okay.
Charlotte is also dealing with major flooding from Zeta. This is some brand new video of Indian Graves Road here where cars can no longer drive through. We have new video also of a bridge underwater in Lenoir County outside Charlotte. The heavy rains there causing a lot of issues for drivers.
And take a look at this picture out of Wilkes County. A North Carolina state trooper took this photo of a road collapse on Arbor Grove Church Road. Authorities think it was caused by the wet conditions from Zeta. Very scary there. The threat is not over. Another system is moving in tonight, as Kat was mentioning near the top of our newscast. Now is a good time to download the WRAL weather app. You can receive an alert when severe weather is in your area. The app is available for Apple and Android devices.
New at 4, North Carolina set another record for newly reported COVID-19 cases in one day. We saw 2,885 new cases today, which brings our daily average now to a new high at 2,290 cases. Tragically, 38 deaths have been reported in the last 24 hours. And for the 23rd day in a row, we're seeing more than 1,000 people in the hospital. Today, that number specifically is 1,181. Today, we spoke to infectious disease expert Dr. David Wall from UNC about the state's spike in cases.
Unlike some countries where we've seen a real dip, we've never really experienced a valley. We just keep experiencing peaks. So this is frustrating, and it seems really well correlated with as we relax our protections, we see ourselves with more infections. And I think the writing's on the wall, and it's really just a shame.
2 positive coronavirus cases have been linked to a Trump rally in Gastonia. Health officials believe the Gastonia cases are independent of each other and not yet an indication of viral spread from that rally. One of the people who tested positive was WCNC reporter Brandon Goldner. He posted on Twitter today saying, quote, "Full disclosure, I'm one of the 2 people who tested positive after covering President Trump's Gastonia rally. Thankfully, I feel okay, though I'm quarantining per county guidelines." WCNC and I contacted everyone who I've interviewed or interacted with before my test result. I was wearing a mask during the entire rally, but due to Secret Service protocols, there were several times when social distancing wasn't possible.
I used to work at that station. I worked with Brandon, just was messaging him. He seems to be doing all right, so that's some good news. We wish him all the best here this afternoon. Speaking of Trump rallies, President Trump was supposed to be in Fayetteville in about 2.5 hours from now. That event, that rally, has been postponed. This was the notice right here from the Trump-Pence campaign coming out within the past 30 minutes. And it's all because of the wind advisory that was issued for gusts reaching well over 50 miles per hour, according to the campaign. And again, not canceled, just postponed until Monday. If details are released on the event for Monday, of course, we'll let you know and keep you posted here in the Live Center. Back to you.
Thank you. Our WRAL News poll today has the latest data on the race for governor. Democrat Roy Cooper has held a consistent lead over Republican challenger Dan Forrest. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie is live outside an early voting site in Garner. Laura, any big surprises here?
Well, Catherine, yes and no. I mean, while our WRAL News poll showed that the other top races on the ticket are tightening as Election Day approaches, we're finding that there's not as much movement in the governor's race. Democrat Roy Cooper still leads that race by double digits. However, in the lieutenant governor's race, Republican Mark Johnson currently has the edge for the second highest seat in the state. In our latest WRAL News poll, 53% of likely voters said they'll vote for Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, with 42% saying they support Republican Lieutenant Governor Dan Forrest. That's very similar to the results of our last poll in mid-October, which found Cooper at 52 and Forrest at 39. Survey USA CEO Jay Levy says that's strongly linked to Cooper's handling of the pandemic. His approval rating for handling the coronavirus has also remained steady, with 24% strongly approving, 33% approving, 19% disapproving, and 13% strongly disapproving. It's actually a few points higher now than it was 3 weeks ago, as the state continues to set records for new coronavirus infections. Our poll showed the race for lieutenant governor is much tighter. Republican Mark Robinson is currently leading that race at 47% to 44% for Democrat Yvonne Hawley. When we drill down into the numbers, we find Democratic voters' support for Hawley is relatively weak. Looking at voters who said they're voting for Cooper, only 79% of them said they're also voting for Hawley, while 13% say they're voting for Robinson. Levy said that's the result of voters splitting their ticket. He said the race could go either way.
For her to win, she must ride Cooper's coattails better than she is in our polling.
Coming up at 5:30, is the state reopening too quickly, too slowly, or at about the right pace? We'll bring you our latest results on the pace of recovery from this pandemic. Back to you, Catherine.
Laura Leslie live in Garner. Laura, thank you.
Tonight, you can watch Thursday Night Football on Fox 50. The Atlanta Falcons take on the Panthers, and WRAL's Chris Lee has what you can expect from that game up next. Plus,
controversy at this Carborough voting site after state election officials tell people to take these Black Lives Matter flags down. We'll tell you their reasoning ahead.
Do you need or just want to fly? 5 on your side's Monica LaLiberty takes us on board a 737 to show us what airlines are doing now to keep you safe in the sky. That's tonight at 5.
You're watching WRAL News.
As COVID-19 cases continue to spike, so do cyber attacks, this time against the U.S. healthcare system. The FBI and 2 federal agencies warned they had credible information of an increased and imminent cybercrime threat to U.S. hospitals and healthcare providers. The alert said malicious groups are targeting the sector with attacks that produce, quote, data theft and disruption of healthcare services.
Raleigh is getting a new Amazon store that features only highly rated products. Amazon 4-Star is a new physical store at the Crabtree Valley Mall that makes it fun and easy for customers to shop and discover the products they'll love in person. The store carries highly rated products from the top categories across all of Amazon.com, including devices, consumer electronics, home items, and more. Everything in store is rated 4 stars and above by our customers, or is a top seller, or is trending on Amazon.com.
Target revealed its holiday deals a month out from Black Friday. It will launch a series of week-long sales that will run through November. Nearly all of the big box stores' Black Friday Now deals will be available for an entire week in-store and online. Target says it's also updating and expanding its price match guarantee so you don't have to worry about losing out on savings if you decide to shop early.
Well, it has been a short week for the Carolina Panthers. Right now they are preparing to play Thursday night football, which you can watch on Fox 50 tonight. Joining us to preview the game is Chris Lee. And Chris, Panthers fans really want to know if Christian McCaffrey is going to play tonight.
Oh, man, that is the million-dollar question. Unfortunately, he won't. The Carolina Panthers had until 4 o'clock to activate Christian McCaffrey to their active roster for him to play tonight. 4 o'clock, of course, is come and gone. No activation, which means no CMC for the 6th straight game. The Carolina Panthers will play their only scheduled primetime game as they host the Atlanta Falcons tonight. The Panthers lost their last 2 games. Their last win actually came 5 weeks ago against these Falcons. 3 weeks ago in week 5, against these Falcons. It's been 7 years since the Cardiac Cats have swept the Dirty Birds in the regular season. Tonight, they will have a chance to do so, but with a healthier team than what they faced 3 weeks ago in Atlanta. Kickoff is scheduled for 8:20 tonight. You can watch it over on Fox 50. As for Christian McCaffrey, the Panthers are expected to add him to the active roster for their next game in 10 days against the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, Chris, thank you.
That should be a rough game against the Chiefs. All right, the wind will also be a factor at the game today. Let's get over to meteorologist Kat Campbell in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. How windy are you expecting it to be tonight?
It is going to get windy again, and I'll walk you through it hour by hour, but it is not going to be as windy as it was when Zeta passed through earlier today. The worst of those winds are over, but look at our current temperature in Durham, 81, a dew point of 71. It's incredibly muggy for late October. It feels gross outside today, and that's all fuel for these thunderstorms that arrive later tonight. Our wind speeds, wind gusts, still some gusts to around 30 miles per hour, but not seeing the over 50 mile per hour gusts that we saw earlier. The winds gradually dying down, but expected to stay fairly breezy through the afternoon. Here is a report of where we've seen some of the wind damage you can see across the viewing area. We also had several reports of power outages, and we've been covering those as well. But Zeta is out of here. That system has already passed. Now we are focused on the next one. It's this upper level low that'll swing through with the cold front tonight. And this is the system that's likely to bring the rain and storms. With Zeta, really only northwest of the triangle is forecast to see any rain. But now everyone will be watching for rain and storms tonight. Through about 8 o'clock, we don't expect to see much. But once we get past 8 o'clock tonight, that's when we start to see a few of these storms firing up. The best chance for storms likely after 10 o'clock. You can really start to see a line of thunderstorms developing by that point in time. The biggest threat will be the potential for damaging wind gusts with the line of storms. We could see some winds gusting to around 60 miles per hour in the thunderstorms. Still storms sticking around through 1-2 a.m. So even overnight, this threat for rain and storms will continue. That is why it is important to have the WRAL weather app on hand, your alerts turned on so you can be woken up and turn on your TV if you are under an alert. Mike Mays and I will be here all night keeping you up to date and safe. Let's talk about our wind gusts, though. It's still going to be fairly breezy with that next system that moves through tonight. At 8 o'clock tonight, gusts anywhere from about 20 to 30 miles per hour likely. I think it's on the high end here on this model. But once we get closer to 11 o'clock tonight, things really ramp up with this next system moving in. That's when we could see some more wind gusts around 35 miles per hour, potentially even higher than that, a few models showing. And the windy conditions stick around tomorrow morning. It's going to be a windy morning to kick off your Friday. Gusts up to about 35 miles per hour, and we'll stay fairly breezy throughout the day tomorrow, but we're not talking about winds quite as bad as they were today. With the breeze comes the cooler air. High temperatures tomorrow are only in the 60s. The clouds clear out fairly quickly, though, and then big changes ahead for the holiday weekend. Tomorrow, we clear out 65, windy throughout the day. Saturday for Halloween, it looks pretty good. 60 our forecast high, mostly sunny early on. Some clouds build in late, and don't forget to set your clocks back an hour before you head to bed Saturday night. You'll get that extra hour of sleep. Sunday could come with a little bit of rain, a 30% chance of rain with a reinforcing front that brings even colder air early next week. High temperatures only in the lower 50s on Monday. Election Day morning, we're looking at the potential for a frost, maybe even freeze, with a high of only 62.
So bundle up if you're heading to vote. All right, Kat, thanks so much.
Well, some voters in Carrboro are upset about Black Lives Matter flags hanging at a voting location. Coming up at 4:30, why the State Board of Elections has requested the town remove the flags and what Carrboro leaders are going to do. Plus, cities across the country prepare for possible civil unrest after the election, how Fayetteville is preparing as we get closer to Tuesday. Law enforcement agencies across the country are preparing for possible civil unrest after Election Day. Most of the concerns surround large cities, but some threats have trickled down to smaller towns. WRAL Fayetteville reporter Gilbert Bays spoke with the city's mayor, who says the city's police chief has a plan to make sure polling sites are safe.
Long lines and claims of voter suppression at polling sites across the country have trickled down to smaller cities like Fayetteville.
I had a lot of citizens and different inquiries to want to know, is the city prepared for the day after?
Fayetteville Mayor Mitch Colvin decided to have the city's police chief address the issue at a recent city council meeting.
So basically, we've been aware of the proposed threats, not just across the nation, but at every city, including ours. So with that, we are monitoring as much as possible.
The city has reason for concern. The unrest following the killing of George Floyd led to protests in Fayetteville. The Market House was set on fire, and demonstrators occupied its steps for about a week.
From the summer and some of the previous experiences during George Floyd, some of those national issues make their way here. And so we have to prepare for that. Our first priority is to keep the citizens of Fayetteville safe.
The mayor says Chief Hawkins has laid out a plan to make sure that happens on Election Day.
Law enforcement restrictions for being at polling sites on the day of election, but we are going to be accessible to respond.
The police chief says her department is preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best.
We don't have anything right now we're saying is a serious threat, but we're very much aware and we're staying vigilant just like the rest of the country. So it's on our radar, and it will be on our radar for a minute.
In Fayetteville, Gilbert Bays, WRAL News.
Hurricane Zeta made landfall in Louisiana yesterday afternoon, leaving hundreds of thousands of people there without power. Coming up, what it looks like now in the Gulf Coast as cleanup begins and Zeta moves up the East Coast. Plus, WRAL Investigates puts high-touch surfaces to the test for signs of coronavirus. And we got a hit. Find out where tonight at 6. And as we hit the break, let's take a look at how the stock market performed today, all in the green.